Welcome to Module 2, Responsibility to FaDSS Families. This section is comprised of several responsibilities required of FaDSS workers. We'll cover each of these responsibilities, which can be found in sections 1.1 to 1.14 of the Code of Ethics. Before continuing, please read this section of the Code of Ethics in its entirety. Commitment to families. The worker's primary responsibility is to promote the well-being of the family served. In general, participant interests are primary. However, the worker's responsibility to the larger society or specific legal obligations may, on limited occasions, supersede the primary responsibility owed to family participants. In these rare instances, the participants should so be advised. An example of this is when a worker is required by law to report that a family has abused a child or threatened to harm themselves or others. FaDSS workers are mandatory child abuse reporters. In this instance, the worker has the responsibility to report. Self-determination. The worker respects and promotes the right of families to self-determination and assists family members in their efforts to identify and clarify their goals and their chosen means to achieve them. Informed consent. There may be times when workers need to share information with other professionals regarding the families they are working with. Workers must use clear and understandable language to inform family members of the purpose of the services, the family's right to refuse or withdraw consent, and the time frame covered by the consent. It's best practice to limit the duration of a release of information to 1 year and renew it only if necessary. Family members must be provided with the opportunity to ask questions and receive a copy of the signed consent form in their preferred form. Competence. Workers must provide services and may represent themselves as competent only within the boundaries of their education, training, license, certification, consultation received, supervised experience, or other relevant professional experience, and within the boundaries of their current position. Cultural competence and social diversity. Workers have an ethical responsibility to seek out knowledge to understand the cultures of the families they serve. This includes more than ethnicity. Workers must also be sensitive to cultural differences. Workers must obtain education about and seek to understand the nature of social diversity and oppression with respect to race, ethnicity, national origin, color, sex, sexual orientation, age, marital status, political belief, religion, and disability. Conflicts of interest. Workers must be alert to and avoid conflicts of interest that interfere with the exercise of professional discretion and impartial judgment. A worker should immediately talk to their supervisor and let them know about the potential conflict of interest. Workers have to tell the family as well when there is a potential conflict of interest and take steps to resolve the issue in a manner that protects the family's interests. Conflict of interest includes using the relationship to further one's own interests as well as engaging in dual or multiple relationships. Workers must not take unfair advantage of any professional relationship or exploit others to further their personal, religious, political, or business interests. For example, if you have a part-time job selling a product, even if the product could be beneficial to a family, soliciting the family would be taking unfair advantage of the FaDSS relationship and could be interpreted as furthering one's own interests. Workers must not engage in dual or multiple relationships with families or former families in which there is risk of harm or exploitation of the family. When they are unavoidable, it's the worker's responsibility to set clear boundaries, not the family's. In smaller communities, this can be more prevalent when workers live and work in close proximity to their clients. Remember, it's your responsibility to set clear boundaries and to notify the families appropriately. When workers have family members that have relationships with each other, it is again the worker's responsibility to clarify the boundaries. This could be providing services to sisters who live in the same neighborhood. It could be a married couple. For example, with sisters, when they know each other, when they know that they're working with both of them, you can clarify that what is said in one house is not relayed to the family member at the other house. In child custody cases, you need to be clear that the family members, that you don't take sides and you relay the facts as you know them. Privacy and confidentiality. It's important that workers seek private information only when it's necessary to do so. Often, family members are conditioned to tell their life story to anyone who appears to be in a position to offer assistance. It's our responsibility to not victimize family members by requesting all private information be shared when it's not pertinent to the work. It's also important that families know that workers will protect their information and the limits around that. Workers can disclose specific confidential information with a release. However, what is shared must be relevant to the needs of the family. For example, a release of information with a child's teacher to discuss the child's bullying behavior on the playground does not mean that you would share personal information about the family beyond what is relevant. A best practice in this case would be to have the parent take a lead role and the worker a supportive role in working with the school to resolve the issue. It's important to clearly explain the limitations of confidentiality, not only at the beginning of our work with the family, but throughout the course of our work. Even when you have a release of information, workers cannot discuss confidential information unless privacy can be ensured. This includes staffing with other agencies. This can also include the privacy of meeting space, taking precautions to protect family confidentiality, and corresponding through the use of phone, text, and emails, and safeguarding family information with respect to social media and data storage devices such as USB. Steps should be taken to encrypt such devices to assure unintended access of family confidential information. Agencies should have or develop policies to address these issues. The worker should follow the agency or program policies on confidentiality when it relates to these situations and consult with their supervisor when in doubt. Keep family files in a locked storage area and don't tape the key to the outside of the filing cabinet. As a general rule, volunteers should not have access to family files. Families can review their records. Each agency is required to have protocol established when a family requests to review their file. This may include the need to schedule an appointment to review the file and require both the worker and supervisor be present when a family is examining their records. A reasonable charge may be applied to copies, but must be uniform across all requests for copies in that agency. Third-party information may not be viewed by the family. The family should be directed to the third party to review these records. For example, a psychiatric report should not be shared with the family if it's part of your record. The family should be directed to the person or agency who generated the report. Physical contact. Workers must exercise extreme caution when engaging in physical contact. A person's history of trauma, the family culture, and potential harm must be considered, and permission must be obtained in every instance. Workers must use respectful language in conversations with and about families at all times. Sharing negative remarks regarding families can impact the culture of the organization and is unacceptable. Workers must never intentionally or unintentionally sexually harass anyone. Workers must never engage in sexual contact with families under any circumstance. This extends to relatives or close personal friends of families when there is danger of exploitation. FaDSS workers cannot provide services to a family member that they have had previously a sexual relationship with. All FaDSS grantees are required to have a plan of action to deal with staff absences to ensure minimal disruption to the family participants. Termination of services. Services should be terminated when they are no longer needed, and families must be notified of the termination. This concludes Module 2 of the Code of Ethics training.